Hello, today we're doing some stuff on the test server to show some of the new, a few of the new UI changes and some of the other changes that are coming out with Odyssey 1.1. Probably one of the things that people are going to see most are they've made some changes in the naming and grouping for skills. So let's take a look here. Make sure I have this set to show all. Now, first thing you'll probably notice is they've redone a lot of the categories. Skills like armor skills and the shield-based skills now have their own separate categories. So you aren't having to look around to find where are these things anymore. The same for resource processing skills, like anything you have for your mining and refining skills will be in this category. Industry has been pretty much changed in name to production. A lot of your old industrial skills will be found here. Science still has most of all the skills you'll find for research and invention. All those skills will still be in here. You also have the new category of scanning skills for your exploration, hacking, archaeology, and any of the scanning skills. Skills involving rigs have their own category now with rigging. Spaceship command is still relatively unchanged. All of your ship skills and everything are here. And fortunately, they decided not to change it to spaceship piloting like they said they wanted to, since we all know spaceship command just sounds a lot more macho. Targeting skills also have their own category now, like signature analysis, target management, which I believe... Yep, target management is a new name for what used to be just targeting. So you'll want to... they have changed some skill names themselves here. But while you might go looking around for some things, for a little while I think the new names are a lot more easier to understand. And don't forget, if you're looking both in your character sheet or in the training queue, there is this little filter here. If you're looking for a particular skill, let's try here. Just type it in here, like for finding where they moved thermodynamics to. It's now in engineering instead of science. That's your best friend there now. So, that covers a lot of the changes that have gone on here. And let's move on now to the next thing to look at. Now, next up, we're going to take a look at some of the in-space UI changes. So, let me grab a ship, get it ready here, and come back in space. Okay. Now, some of the major changes they've made have been in the drones interface. Fortunately, they finally decided to make some changes here. And they are some very nice ones. First off, putting drones into groups has gotten a lot easier. Now, first, let me see here. For these sentries, no, I don't have a group yet. So again, if you don't have any group set up, you do it the same as before. Right click. I don't have a group on here for this, so do that. Now I've got the one drone in there, but what you can do now is you can just drag and drop drones or a group of drones up into that group. Which makes organizing your drone bay a whole lot easier than it used to be. And also, one other change they have made is to launch your drones, you can now do it a couple ways. First, first let's take a look at, Okay, first, you can now use the radial menu from the drones window. And they have added a launch drones command. And then once they're in space, you have the full context capability of engage target. If you go over to plus, you can have view, if you have one selected, I have a group right now, or scoop to cargo bay, or you can have scoop to drone bay, or return to drone bay. Now that's nice and everything, but here's a really fun one now. If you just quickly grab a group, drag them out over here into space, that will launch that drone group. And then for returning, down here, you can do it either through the radial menu, or just quick grab and drag them back into the drone bay, and that will recall that group. Now, for any drone pilot I know, this is going to make things quite a bit easier. There's still a ways to go, but this is a very good start, I think. Now, since we've looked at the radial menu, and this isn't a new thing, but I want to point it out to anybody who has trouble with the radial menu. If you go into Settings and General Settings, there's a slider here for the radial menu that is the delay. When you hold down... When you hold down the left click, you hold it down for so long, then the radial menu will come up. Now, for certain things like what I just showed you for the drones and for moving targets around, you have to start dragging them before the radial menu shows up. So what this slider does is the default position is around here, I believe. But you might want to drag it to, if you have any trouble with moving things around, the radial menu is popping up too quick for you. You can slide it to make it a longer delay until the radial menu pops up. And just play around with that to find the spot that works for you. Now, while we're on the radial menu, let's see, I have another corp mate just logged in here for showing this little feature here. In fleets, the radial menu now works in the fleet menu. So you no longer have to take the extra time to right-click, go to warp to member or whatever. You can just bring up the radial menu here and select warp to member, get info, all of that stuff from here. Which will make a lot of the different fleet actions and all of that stuff a whole lot simpler. Okay, nope, they haven't added anything for fleet warps and that type of stuff. So for that, you'll still have to use the right-click menu to warp a squad or that type of stuff. But this also brings up another change that they made to the radial menu that's just a small little graphical change. A lot of people were having trouble and didn't realize that before. I click on orbit here, and it would come up with whatever your default setting was. But you could do this before, but they've added in this little triangle indicator to tell you that you could drag out here to set a particular range for an orbit. The same for keep at range. And also the same for a warp 2 distance. It's a nice little change just to make that a little more obvious. And again, I've just talked to a lot of people who didn't know this about the radial, so I'll just point it out here, is if you bring up the radial on your own ship, you can set, you see it has the little cog underneath for warp 2 orbit and keep it range. And if you go over it, you see it'll set your default. So you just drag out and can set your default ranges here. I set for 7,500 there, and then when you just go over on anything, you'll see that the default without dragging is whatever you set that for. So that just makes that bit of the interface a little easier to work with. Now, let's just try something here. Okay. No, they haven't added it into the history yet. So you'll still have to do the old right-click lock target or control-click for that. Hopefully they'll be adding that in the future. I know they're doing a lot of extra stuff there. Or they say they want to do a lot more with the radial menu in a lot of the different interface elements. But that also brings us to another change. Let's bring up the autopilot here. And let's set a course for, say, Jita. Okay. Now what they've done is they've added the radial menu to the autopilot. So for any destination you have here, you can bring up your usual options, show info. If it's the next location in your route, you'll get the full radial menu for the Stargate there.
Warp drive active.
So you don't have to pick out the yellow here. You can just pull up the radial for the next destination in your course and jump through the gate over here. And that covers most of the major user interface changes here. So, we'll talk to you later.